Okay. You've been here before? Oh, awesome. Very good. Right here, there's a place right here in the front. I got to have somebody right here. Bookend. Right there. Awesome. Who's ready to have fun? Who's ready to have fun? Yes? Yes? She's the fun girl right here. I mean, if you don't know about fun, she can teach you about fun. She likes fun. She's fun. Awesome. How many of you here have been to some of our classes before? I've been to some myself. Oh, great. This lady's been for prayer. How many of you have been for prayer here? Anybody? 2 of you? Good. Awesome. Did you guys got the text today? This is the coolest place in town? No? Oh, here we go. Some more people coming in. Come on over. Come on over. There's room right here in the front row. People in the front, we don't pick on them. I mean, that's the benefit. That's the perk. Only Sharon. Okay, we're going to get serious now. My computer is not working, so I'm not sure if I can do this without a computer, but I'll try. We'll see what happens. It's going to rough it. Moses was 120 years old when he passed away. Right? In the book of Deuteronomy 34, it says, so I want you to think of this for a minute here. Right? It says he was 124 years old when he passed, and it says his eyes were undimmed and his vigor was unabated. If I was to ask you here tonight by a show of hands, and I say, hey, how many of you here would like that? By a show of hands, how many of you here would like that? Now, some of you, maybe you just didn't hear me, and I'm just going to say louder, and I have no problem doing that. However, I've asked this question before, and people would be thinking to themselves, they didn't raise their hand because they're like, well, I've been in practice now for 26 years, and oftentimes people say, well, I don't want to live that long. But that was not the question. What the word says is at 120, it says that his eyes were undimmed and his vigor was unabated. That means that not only he had like the lifespan, but he also had the health span. Right? Not only that he lived for a long time, which 120 to most of you is like, that's a long time. I don't know if I want to be around that long. But what about if you had the quality all the way to the end? Would you take that? Nobody would say no to that. What most people are afraid of, they're like, I don't want to live that long because I don't think I'm going to be in that good of a shape. Matter of fact, he had to go up on the mountain before God just, showed him what he wouldn't get to see. You're 120 and you just go on a hike, how about that? Some of you would be like, yeah, I'll take that. So in the next 60 minutes or so, right, I want to show you what I believe is one of the most important, part of that health journey as it relates to the physical body. And then to also show you how you can minimize the effect of chronic illnesses, which is really impressive. I'll give you numbers. Things like heart disease or cancer, diabetes or obesity or, any of those things that we have in our country that's really what's killing people. And then to also give you the opportunity of like, hey, what's the next step? And the next step is always important for me because I see lots of people today where probably like with the help of Google, with Dr. Google, you have the ability to be in touch with just about any information that you want. But information without revelation does not take you into taking action. And I'm going to say this again because that's important. People have a lot of information today, but if you have information with no revelation and you don't take any action, it's not going to take you anywhere. And I'm going to tell you that for sure, it's not going to take you to a place where Moses was when he was 120, where it says in the word, and I'm going to repeat this. It says that his eyes were undimmed and his vigor was unabated. So some of you have been here before, or some of you have been to many classes before. Some of you have been here to this place or maybe at our office. And some of you might be like, hey, you know what? I heard that before. Oh, I know this. I heard you, Dr. John, you talking about that before. But today is a different day, right? How is that different today? It's different today because today you can be asking yourself and say, self, you know, how am I applying this? It's not just about to hear it. It's like, how do I apply it? In James 1:22, it says, don't just be a hearer of the word, but be a doer. So being a doer of the word is not just about knowing something, but it's about like how you're going to be applying it. Dr. Jangi is really big into the application because guess what? If we don't get into the practical, we're really not going anywhere. And if you really have studied the word, and maybe if you haven't, I'm just going to give you a little skinny that God has always worked through people. People had to do something. So I'm a believer that as it relates to you, every one of you here, right on this health journey, that if you didn't want to be healthy, likely you wouldn't be here tonight, but you're here. Lucky you. That's the coolest place in town. We're going to keep the air conditioning going and you're going to like it. So we want to just by the time you leave that you have some application to it. Does that sound fair? Many of you here, because you've been here, you know a little bit of my story, or you might have heard it a few times, but if you've never been here, this is a good topic of eating God's way. Of one of the reasons why I lost my dad at such a young age, that was one of the reasons. And my father made poor decision, and as a result of the poor decision, then the outcome was connected to that. So it's really dear to me, right, to tell you a little bit more about food. I grew up on a farm, so I know a little bit about farming. My parents, their parents were farmers. And our farm was about 200 acres, which by all standard today is pretty small. And I'm a big fan of farming. And having this application of going from the farming portion all the way to what's in your plate and what's in front of you, right? And to be able to discuss this tonight, this is something that is really important to me because I believe that it's really missing in people. Most people never question what's in front of them. And as a result of that, this is very detrimental to people's health. Because in Hosea 4:6 it says, she's waiting to write it down. I thought she would just say it to me. But in Hosea 4:6 it says, my people will perish because of a lack of. Right? People don't know. People don't know. And we want to have knowledge with revelation so then you can take action. Does that sound fair? Are we ready to go? Okay, so Moses, I want you to be thinking here tonight that we don't want to just, if you're taking notes, you just don't want to have the lifespan. You also want to have the health span because that's kind of important, right? The health span is to be able to live your calling until the last day. So here it says, heeding God's way in Jeremiah 30:17. I'm going to read a few of those because as we go here, I just want to give you this is my method, and it's my in the back of my mind here before I tell you about this food thing. This is what I want you to know is, I think what's one of the area that people might not be sure about or they don't really understand is God wants you to be healthy. There's many people out there, unfortunately, they don't believe that or they don't know that or they've never read the word about that or what God says about that. So I want to be touching on that before we jump into this food thing. So in Jeremiah 30:17 it says, but I will restore you to health. And then it says, heal your wounds, declares the Lord. So I will restore you to health. So what that means is if you're not healthy, God wants you to be healthy. How does that sound? So you don't have to be perfect. If you're not healthy, He's going to restore your health and He's going to heal you because that's what God wants to do. And there's like a supernatural part of it and there's a natural part of it that you need to be taking responsibility that there is something that you have to do. This next one here, it says in Psalm 147, it says, He heals the brokenhearted, right? And then binds up their wounds. You don't have to be perfect. It could be broken, but He's willing and ready to heal you at any given time. This next one here, it says, this is olive oil, right? Cold pressed. Yes? In the book of Psalm 103, it says, who forgives all your sin and heals all your disease. Right? Forgiving your sin and healing all your disease as it relates to people's health. We won't have time to dive deep into this, but God wants you to be healthy. That's important. I want you to know that. This next one here, Isaiah 53, which many of you have seen this, read that. It says, but he was wounded for our transgression. He was bruised for iniquities. The chastisement of for our peace was upon him, and by his stripes we are healed. And that's wheat. You shouldn't eat that. I mean, maybe back then you should, but not today. We'll talk about that in a minute. 1 Peter 2:24, it says, he himself bore our sins, and in his body on the cross, so that we might die to sin and live for righteousness. By his wounds you have been healed. You first need to know that God wants you to be healthy, and he's got a plan for you too. He also has a plan for you. It's coming up. Here's what it says. Jeremiah 29:11, it says, for I know the plan I have for you, it says, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, and plans to give you hope in a future. So first, he wants you to be healthy, and second, he's got a plan for you. But this plan that he has for you and the calling that he's put on your life, if you don't have your health, are you going to be able to do that? Yes or no? It's very unlikely. There's people, they have big dreams that God's put on their heart, but yet they don't have the ability to do it because they don't have their health. You follow me? Right? Whatever matters to you tonight, and I don't know all of you, and I don't know all what's important to you, but I do know that all of you here, there's things that matters a lot to you. Whether it's your family, whether it's your job, whether it's your ministry, whether it's like whatever that might be. And what I say to you is whatever that is, whatever that thing that matters to you, I want you to ask yourself and say, self, if I don't have my health, and if I'm not at my best, am I going to be able to fulfill that? And I would dare to say that the answer to that is no. Right? This next one here in 3 John 1:2, it says, beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things, not just some things. And it says, in being health just as your soul prosper. It doesn't say in some things, it says in all things. Not in some things, and then it says not just in your soul, but also in health, in your physical health. You follow me? Then on this next one, it says in 1 Corinthians 6:19, it says that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. You follow me? Your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. So your body is a temple, and the Holy Spirit is living inside of you. So then my question to you tonight, and if you're watching this, is like, hey, how are you treating this temple? How are you caring for this temple? And then here it says, right, it's the temple of the Holy Spirit within you. It says whom you have from God. It says you're not your own, but you were bought at a price to glorify God in your body. So how do we do that? How do we do that? When people lose their health, the enemy is really happy. Because then the only thing you have to worry about, when people are not well, when people are sick, who are they thinking about? Do you think they're more thinking about others, or they're thinking more about themselves? Who's going to tell me? Who's going to tell me? People are thinking about themselves. When people are sick, their inclination is not to be thinking about others. We're not going to spend much time on those two first circles, it says spirit and soul. But there is a healing journey, just like there's a body healing journey. Tonight we're going to talk about one part of the body healing journey as it relates to food and nutrition. But there's a healing journey in all circles that we can dive deep into this rabbit hole. At Gilead, we do classes on that. If this is of interest to you, then you can, connect with that. But we're going to stick to this body journey as it relates to nutrition. So here it says the problem with food/health. Before we can dive into this food thing again, we're just priming the pump. I'm priming the pump for you. I just want you to understand this. If you don't understand the basic, then we're not going anywhere. And the way we're going to be priming the pump is I want you to understand first, what does that mean to be healthy? And in the medical dictionary, according to the World Health Organization, it says health is when you have 100% function. And then it goes on to say physically, mentally, socially, and spiritually, and not merely the absence of disease and infirmity. So what does that mean? That means that you and I being healthy is when you have 100% function physically, mentally, socially, and spiritually, and not merely the absence of disease and infirmity. So what that means is it doesn't mean that you're healthy because you don't have any symptoms. It doesn't mean that you're healthy because you're like, hey, I feel fine. There's plenty of people every day, they have stage 4 cancer, they feel fine, they just drop dead. Do you understand that? On the flip side of that, you could have a fever 104 and you're completely healthy, and that's completely normal, and that's beautiful. Now, for most people here, I mean, I know a few of you, and maybe I could probably trick most of you. I could trick Sharon, but I won't pick on her tonight. Right? If I say, hey, if you have 100%, if you have 104 fever, are you healthy or you're sick? And most people would say, you're sick, but you're not. You're absolutely 100% healthy. And here's the reason why. Are you ready for this? That's really important, because if you don't change the way you think about health, every decision you make after that, right? Those guys, they have kids. When you have kids, it gets a little scary. You know, when they have a fever, they're like, yeah, my kids are sick. I'm like, no, your kids are perfectly healthy. Well, why do you say that? Because if you understand about the immune system, when you have bugs in your body and those bugs there, they're just creating havoc. And how's the body going to take care of that? The body's going to be like, yeah, I got you, right? And how the body's going to do that is going to be like, hey, you know what? If I increase the core temperature, what's going to happen is we're going to kill those bugs. But if you don't understand that, this lady, she's like, interesting, right? But if you don't understand that, you just think that your body is not doing what it's supposed to be doing to begin with. Just remember, God didn't make a mistake, right? God did not make a mistake. He's the creator. The power that made the body heals the body, right? He made this body. He knows how to heal this body. But when men interfere because we think that we're smarter, then we just get in trouble. And then you just repeat what other people have said. Little Johnny has a fever. He's sick. And I'm like, no, little Johnny's healthy. I've had kids sitting in front of me. They're like, yeah, I wasn't here on Monday because I was sick. I'm like, well, what happened? Well, you know, I was having diarrhea. I'm like, well, that's great. That's called being healthy. But most people don't know that. And they wouldn't see it that way because they don't understand how God made their body to work. And if you don't understand that to begin with, then we're going nowhere. Right? You have to understand that. Why does Dr. Jean-Guy and Dr. Denise would have 5 kids, and those 5 kids have never been to the doctor for the first 18 years of their life? Why is that? Why did they've never been to a doctor? They've never had shot. They've never had nothing but a chiropractic adjustment and nutrition. Why? Not because I'm any smarter, because I'm not. I promise you I'm not. But I like this thing called common sense, though. Why would that work for me for 18 years and it wouldn't work for you? I will answer a question in a minute. Okay. Did you have a question? Yeah, we definitely trust the designer. But I want you to understand that. Why would that work for me? Maybe it would work for one person. People are like, hey, that's just luck. But what about 5? 5 times 18 years, that's many years. Would you say it's close to 100 years? Why would that work for me, but it doesn't work for you? Why? And what I'm saying to you is I'm not opposed to going to the emergency room. I just want you to understand the trust, understanding what God is trying to do. But when you don't understand that, then you're just operating out of fear. And when you operate out of fear, then you're not at your best. So we need to change fear for faith. And we need to just, if you know what God says about who you are and about how he made your body to heal and how he made your body to work, you can embrace that, because we fear what we don't know. If you're taking notes right now, you should probably write this down, right? We fear what we don't know. So my entire career, I've been teaching people to just allow them to know more about their body, because if you know more about your body, then you're just not going to fear it. So here, this first question is like, hey, okay, here's health. So you wrote this down, yes? Okay. Number 2 here, it says food comes from, so there's food comes from the ground, from the trees, or from the soil. This is called food. So we're going to define today the difference between food versus products. If there's a label on it, then you can read like 57 things under other ingredient and you don't know 55 of them, that's not food. You follow me? That's pretty simple. So if it grows in a tree, it comes from the ground, right, and it's moving and you shoot it, then you can have it. Number 3 here, it says, what's the problem with the above? The problem with the above is you can live your life by this year, but today we're in like 2025, and you could be thinking, I'm going to go more in detail, in a little bit, but you could be like, hey, the cows, the cow, he's moving, and we just shut the cow and we're eating the cow. But then there's somebody else here in the room would be like, yeah, but I was told that I shouldn't be eating the cow. And then there's confusions about that. And I'm hoping that I'm going to shine some lights on that in a little bit, right? So here it says life expectancy at birth by sex. This is statistics from 2022. In the United States, for a man, it's 74.8 years old, and for a female, it's 80. What I want you to get out of this chart here is like we're the worst. So our life expectancy is the worst, but yet we have the most money, we have the best technology, we have the best of everything, but yet our health is like no good. So this is our life expectancy. So we're not so good. Out of all the industrialized country, we'll rank at the bottom. Here's the next one. This is the national health expenditure. That's what NHE means. National health expenditure grew by 4.1% to 4.5 trillion with a T in 2022, or $13,493 per person. So what that means is the cost for people having chronic illnesses per year, it's almost $14,000 per year, every year. Okay, so here's Dr. Jean-Guy. I've been in this country now for 26 years, and I've been costing to the system zero. Do you understand what zero means? Nothing. So that means that there's other people it costs to the system way more than that. Would you agree? The statistics right now, by the time you're 60 years old, is the average 60 years old is going to take 5 prescription medication. That's average. Lots of people have like full pages of medication, waiting for the next doctor's appointment. And then I don't know if there's a limit to how many surgery that you can have, but some people, I think they've reached the limit. How many stents a person can have, right? And then it goes on to say, it says, the Medicare spending grew by 5.9% to $944.3 billion with the B in 2022, or 21% of total national health expenditure. Medicaid spending is up by almost 10%, $805.7 billion with a B, or 18% of total national health expenditure. So what that means is, the moral of the story is, more and more people are sick, and we're spending more and more money, but yet we're sicker and sicker. So you tell me if that makes any sense at all. So if we keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting something that is different, then we are what? We are insane, right? People are insane. They just keep doing the same thing. And then unfortunately, I get people to look at me and say, yeah, but Dr. Jean-Guy, my insurance is not going to pay for that. Do you see when we think that way, though, this is dangerous thinking. I'm not telling you that, some people are paying for their insurance and they would like their insurance to pay for everything, but just hear me here for a minute. If people were truly vested into their health, number one, would they need their insurance anyway? Okay, just think about that for a minute. If you were truly vested into your insurance, now I told you I haven't spent one penny into the system in 26 years since I've been living in this country. But let me just tell you, I've invested a lot in my health, though. A lot. Probably the only person that beat me here is probably Sarah, but everybody else, I beat you. Okay? So I want you to hear me for a minute. This is really important. Because if you're tracking when you leave this place, you got to be empowered, and I want to empower you. That's important for you and your family. Not just you, but your family too. And those are numbers. Look at the numbers. I'm kind of a number guy. If you don't like numbers, then you're not going to like me, but I want to tell you some numbers. If you don't like the numbers, if you're like a lovey-dovey and you're a nurturer, just close your eyes for a minute. I'll give you numbers. 944, right? 800, there's 944,000 people, 800 people, right? Short of 1 million people that died every year from heart disease and stroke. Right now, as we speak, those are stats from 2023. The next one here is there's 600,000 people that die from cancer every year. There's 1.7 million people that are diagnosed with cancer every year. 600,000 every year, year after year after year after year after year. The last one here, number 3, and there's a number 4 too. I just didn't write it down. There's 38 million with a million people that have diabetes right now. There's 98 million that are pre-diabetic. They're just waiting to be diagnosed. And then there's 40% of this country that are considered to be obese, not overweight, but obese, right? 40%. Back 20 years ago when I teach this class, it was 10%. Now we're up to 40%. Many of the chronic illnesses directly correlated to people being obese. You follow me? Numbers are telling a story. And you might be sitting in here tonight and you might be thinking to yourself, you're like, hey, that's just genetic. You know, I have bad gene. And what I want you to know is it's not true. Chronic illnesses are not caused by people having bad gene. They're caused by people making bad decisions. Why do you need to know that? Is because you need to know that there's something you can do about it, and there's something you can do for your family. There's something you can do for the people that are around you. If they choose to. They might choose to do nothing, but I'm just telling you that there's something that people can do. So when people say something as stupid as something like, listen to me, like Dr. Jean, everybody's got blood pressure, high blood pressure in my family, so therefore, I'm going to have that too. I'm like, that's stupid. I usually don't say that. I just keep it for myself. But I want you to listen to me for a minute. The same thing is going to happen from one generation to the other if people make the same decision. Do you understand that? High blood pressure, it's not a genetic problem. Heart disease is not a genetic problem. It's a problem that people make bad decisions, and that the bad decisions are being made over and over again. There's no change. If there's no change, the outcome is going to be the same. Do you follow me? Right? That's important here. We need to check this off the list because I don't want you to think by the time you leave, you're like, hey, there's nothing that can be done. When people have chronic illnesses, there's something that can be done if they choose to. If they make bad decisions, just like everybody else in their family, the outcome is going to be the same. So those are the numbers. If you don't like them, just close your eyes. Okay, we're done with that. Here, I'm going to give you something you like here. It says, what fits your busy schedule? 1 hour of exercising or just being dead for 24 hours? All of you here today, I was thinking about that this weekend. Because there's always one person during the week or during the day that will say, hey, you know what? Why don't you tell me what you do? Because some of you, you're sitting there and you're like, well, what did he eat this morning? Maybe I should ask him, what did he eat this morning? Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm fasting today. I didn't eat anything. So here we go. So we can skip that question. Right? But you're thinking like, what did he eat today? I want you to understand that what people do to be healthy is not what they do one time, is what they do every day. It's what you do every day. It's what you start doing today. If you've never read the book, it's called Atomic Habits. You should probably write this down. Atomic Habits. You don't need to read the book. I'm just going to tell you what it says. It says, hey, you got to start with small things. Small things is tonight. If you don't exercise, you put your running shoes on and you go to bed with it. So when you wake up tomorrow morning, you got your running shoes on and you're like, step in the right direction. You just go to bed with your running shoes. Atomic Habits is you do little things, and then those little things has a bigger impact over time. Right? So it's not what people do one time. People, they're like, God, I need a healing. Let's just open my Bible now because I need an emergency healing. I guess God could do that because he's God. But in the natural, it takes time and repetition. Do you follow me? And it's not what people do one time. It's what people do on a regular basis for a long, long time. Do you follow me? And if I was to ask you tonight, say, hey, how many of you here, I'm just priming the pump here. How many of you here want to be on a diet? Nobody wants to be on a diet. Nobody. I've never had anybody be like, I'm so excited, I want to be on a diet. Nobody says that to me ever. So when we design clinical nutrition program for people, I don't put people on a diet. Because nobody wants to be on a diet. Nobody. And maybe you might be excited about this diet for one day, for 1 week. But you have to be excited about what you're putting in your body for the next many decades until the good Lord's going to come get you. That's what you need to get excited about. Do you follow me? Okay. Those are dates, by the way, if you didn't know what they were, right? So here it says, what kind of model should we follow? It says God's way or man's way. Unfortunately, as it relates to man, right, men and women, what we want to do with food specifically is we want to do things that's going to be like cheaper, faster, right? I have a brother-in-law who's in real estate, and he says, Jean-Guy, his specialty is like fast food restaurant. He's like, we don't do fast food restaurant anymore unless there's a drive-through. Because it just don't work. If there's not a drive-through, it just don't work. It's just going to go out of business. So not only it needs to be like fast food restaurant, but you got to have a drive-through because it's got to be fast. Think about that for a minute. So what happened is when man jumped into this thing with our infinite wisdom as it relates to food, then we have like the ultimate corruption. That's the reason why there's always one smart person in the group. When I do this class, it'd be like, yeah, but Jesus did feed like 15,000 people with bread. Why can I not eat bread? What's wrong with the bread? Didn't he just feed 15,000 people with bread? Do you follow me? Do you think it was Aunt Millie's bread? Think about that for a minute. But if you don't think about it, then you just don't know any better, and you're like to justify, right? You're trying to justify your lesion. That's what people do all day long. They try to justify their lesion. They're like, I don't have that. I don't have that problem. Right? So are we following God's way or man's way? Would like to follow God's way. Those are honeycombs. Yes? You ever seen those? Good. Maybe some of you have never seen them. You can eat them. Hosea 4:6, we're going to skip that. Genesis 1:29 down, here we go. It says, and God said, behold, I have given you every plant yielding seeds that is on the face of all the earth, and every tree that has seeds in its fruit. Right? It doesn't say there that, hey, you should be eating cake, cookies, candies, ice cream, bread, rice, pasta. It doesn't say that. It says, here's the trees and here's some seeds, and then from those seeds there's going to be fruit, and then you can eat that. Yes? Right? Okay. Here's the next one. Genesis 9:3, it says, every moving thing that lives shall be food for you, and as I give you the green plants, I give you everything. So now those things that are moving, right? Let's say that today, 2025, we're talking about cows, for instance. Do you think that there's a difference between having cows that are just eating corn, soy, wheat, and then those cows, when they get sick, then we just pump them up with antibiotic and hormones? And then after that, you're going to send this cow to the slaughterhouse, and then you're going to put that in your body. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think it's going to be like super amazing for this fine body here? Right? Do you think that this temple here deserves to have this kind of stuff inside of you? But people never think about that twice. Do you think that there's a difference that if you have a cow that's been grazing on grass its entire life, do you think that by the time this cow goes to the slaughterhouse, do you think it's going to be different? Likely, would you say? But now there's smart people that have PhD that are doing research. If you go read the Journal of Rheumatology, it says that if you have rheumatoid arthritis, you should never have red meat. Some of you have heard that before, and how do I know that? Because people come and repeat it to me. They're like, yeah, my doctor said. I'm like, of course, because your doctor knows a lot about nutrition, doesn't he? Right? He's taken this one full class that was like 2 credits, and he knows everything about nutrition, right? Do you think it's different, though, to have a cow that's been eating grass its entire life, that's been just grazing, and just when it's time, it's like it's time to go? There's a difference? Of course there is. So you have to understand, by the time it gets into your plate, where's that coming from, and how was it treated? When I was in chiropractic school, there's a book, our nutrition teacher, he was really big into, he was a vegetarian, he was trying really hard to make sure that we would get his drift. And we read this book, it's called Diet for Numerica. And by the time you're done reading this book, you really want to be a vegetarian, for sure. Because in that book, the Baskin-Robbins guy, right, his son, that's the son that wrote the book. His name is John Robin. And in that book, he says, pretty much, he's portraying that the animals are not treated properly. And he was right. If you go around this country, in the United States of America, animals are not treated properly. Let me give you an example. My brother, this is not in the United States, it's in Canada, it's even worse. But, it happens here too. So he used to take care of those little turkey. And those little turkey, to just making sure that we make them fat faster, we feed them with arsenic. Pulls them out of the cage, break their legs, feed them with arsenic. They would get them fat faster, so then we can kill them, make more money off of them. That was his job. That's what he did. So now you just kill this little turkey and you're like, hey, Thanksgiving, this is going to be a happy day. We're going to be thankful. Thankful that today we're going to be eating arsenic, right? We're just thankful. Thankful that I'm going to be poisoning my entire family. We're just thankful. But yet most people don't know that. So some of you are sitting there and you're like, wow, how'd you get to be so smart? I'm not. I just have common sense. It's common sense. All of you here, when you leave tonight, I just want you to think, when you eat something, you're like, where's this coming from? Because if you don't learn that, then you're just like, you're in trouble. Right? Let's move on. It says in Daniel, so many people at the beginning of the year, they do this fast, right? This 10-day fast. It says, give us nothing but vegetables to eat and water to drink. And then at the end, 10 days to see what happened between those other people and then us. How about that? So let's talk about diet for a minute. I know you guys are just like burning to talk about diet, so we'll talk about diet. Are you ready? You're like, yeah, but Dr. Jean-Guy, what about the carnivore diet? And Dr. Jean-Guy, what about the ketogenic diet? And what about this diet? What about the whole 40 diet? What about that diet, Dr. Jean-Guy? I felt so much better when I started to just eat meat. I'm like, listen, this entire country would feel better just eating meat, just for the fact that if you just do this for a month and you don't eat any sugar, no sugar, zero, of course you feel better because the inflammation goes way down in your body. But when you eat cake, cookies, candies, ice cream, bread, rice, and pasta every day, it's like putting diesel fuel into the big fire. That's what people do. It doesn't matter which diet you're on. You're going to feel better right away if you don't eat sugar. Just so you know, FYI. If you start eating a whole bunch of fat, guess what's going to happen? Instead of your body using sugar for fuel, it's going to use fat. So do you think you're going to feel better? Well, of course you will. You might be tired a little bit. You're going to be like, oh, my joints feel so much better. I got so much more energy. I sleep so much better. Of course. Because when you eat cake, cookies, candies, ice cream, bread, rice, and pasta, it puts your brain on fire. Continuously. Anything that has to do with focus, concentration, attention, it's like gone. Gone. You're just talking and you're falling asleep. You don't even have to go to work. You're just always tired. So now here Daniel's like, hey, you know what? Just give us some vegetables, and just drink some water and see how you feel. Now, of course, you do this for a few days, you're going to whine. You're going to whine a lot. People whine a lot. First time fasted, it's just my first fast. Dr. Denise and I lasted about 45 minutes. And as soon as we saw this fast food restaurant, we just pulled right over. This was like 30 years ago. And the reason why I want you to know that is because I've been there. I know. And there's always this one person that says to me, yeah, but Dr. Jean-Guy, I travel a lot. What about when I'm at the at the airport? There's nothing to eat there. I'm like, yeah, but Jesus did fast for 40 days. Can you just skip one meal? Just this one time? Yeah, but I'm not Jesus. I'm like, well, you're right, you're not Jesus. But can you just skip this one meal just one time? Do you think that you're just going to drop dead at the airport if you just skip this one meal this one time? But we're just so conditioned, right? So conditioned to have something. Now just go back 400 years ago. That was a long time ago, yes? When people got up in the morning, you think they just looked at their watch and like, hey, I need to have a glass of orange juice and some oatmeal and toast? I got to have breakfast. Is that what happened? No, because they didn't even have such thing as breakfast. They're just like, listen, if we want to eat today, we need to go kill something, or we need to go to pick this off the trees. So people did not eat sometimes for 18 hours, 24 hours, for a long time. So now there's this genius in this country, somehow this intermittent fasting, you're just like, oh, Dr. Jean-Guy, have you ever heard of that? Have you ever heard of that? Intermittent fasting? Do you think it's good for you? Do you understand how silly that is? Yeah, of course, people just not eat for days. It happens all the time. Your body is completely genetically programmed because the designer is just amazing. You're completely designed not to eat. And when you're not eating, what happens is your body's going to be adapting, right, to become stronger and stronger, but you were never designed to overeat. When people overeat, it's like one less day to that person. Now what's happening in this country, not only we overeat, but the stuff that we eat is just devoid from real nutrient. Do you follow me? So it's like a double negative. I mean, I want some of those. I mean, who wants some of those? Don't lie. I mean, of course you want some. Everybody wants some. It's like, where are the donuts? 30 years ago, I mean, in Atlanta, Georgia, it's like, I mean, you go to this, I mean, what was the chain over there? I mean, like, what's that place? It's like, they're hot. They're hot. What's that place called? Yeah, Krispy Kreme. I mean, they were just like the best donuts ever. The best one. I mean, they just come out and you see all this glue getting on the donuts. It's like, yeah, give me 3 dozens of those. It's not a big deal, Dr. Jean-Guy. I mean, just this one time. But what happened is this one time is like one time a week. It's like one time a day. It's like the one time is like a lot of times. This is not the one time that people do it that kills them. It's not the one time that people do it that they have diabetes. It's not the one time people do it that they have high blood pressure. It's not the one time people do it that they have depression. It's not the one time. What happened is it's been happening over and over again, right? Multiplication. I mean, I'm sure that you guys want this, but maybe you don't want that. You're like, yeah, that doesn't look that great. I mean, it's not sure. Those are good, though. So here in the book of Numbers now, see what happened is God's people, they were just like stuck in Egypt there, and they were there for 400 years. And when they came out, I mean, they complained while they were there. They complained. I mean, we always complain, right? I mean, the things haven't changed, but here's what it says. Right? It says, remember the fish that we ate in Egypt. It says it cost nothing. Cucumbers, that was all, everything was free, right? It says we had melons, leeks, onion, garlic. How about that? This doesn't sound like cake, cookies, candies, ice cream, bread, rice, and pasta. I mean, it doesn't sound like that. So when they were slaves, they were just eating like kings, really. They were eating real food. Now they just go out in the wilderness and they're like, what are we going to eat now? Because, sometimes you got to have faith. They didn't really have that. They were a little stubborn. I know that doesn't happen to any of us here. This lady's laughing. She's like, yep, I'm with you. Okay, let's move on. This is fish. This is some green stuff. You guys should have green stuff every day. Green stuff. Do you know what green stuffs are? People say to me, Dr. Jean-Guy, I mean, I just cannot stand the taste of water. And I'm like, I didn't know water tasted anything. But people will say that to me. But the reason why this is happening, now let me just tell you, because this is not your fault. Let me tell you the reason why people don't like the water. It's because every single company, fast food company, they hire scientists that are really, 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 really smart. Did I say really smart? And their job with those scientists is to find out how they can corrupt those taste buds in your mouth forever. So then when you eat real food, it's not going to taste good to you anymore. They hire people to do that. And they put that in the food the non-food that you're putting into your body and into your kid's body every day. They pay those people beaucoup bucks. Do you know what beaucoup bucks means? I'm French, just so you know. That means a lot. They pay those people a lot of money, right, to find out how we're going to screw up people's taste buds. And once we have that, then we have them. Because then after that, guess what? We can just be like, we don't need to just kill anybody with a gun. We can just do it with the food. That becomes really easy. And then you have people that are weak, right? We have a bunch of weak people around. Because what happened is when you're just like underfed and you put all those calories in, then you just become weak. This lady today, she's like, I'm adjusting this big guy. I mean, he was big, and I'm thinking to myself, I hope I don't have 100 of those in a day. But she's like, how did you do that? She's like, he's so big. I'm like, yeah, I can do it. It's no problem. In the book of Proverbs 24, it says, my son, eat some honey. Okay, so you guys can have honeycombs, yes? You have butter. Butter should be dripping all over your face, and then you can have some honey. Now remember, I want you to listen to me for a minute, because I've heard every objection in the book for 25 years. But Dr. Jean-Guy, honey, sugar. I'm like, well, you're right. Of course, if you eat cake, cookies, candies, ice cream, bread, rice, pasta every day, and then you have your honey and your maple syrup and everything else, that's bad. Do you follow me? Right? That's honey. That's grapes. You make wine with this. Right? In 2 Chronicle, now check this out. It says, they're talking about Asa. He was one of the king, right? It says in his 39th year of his reign, it says Asa became diseased in his feet and his malady was severe, and yet his disease did not seek the Lord but the physician. Do you know why I put this up there? It's because I just want to tell you that I ask people, how many people believe that God is the ultimate healer? People raise their hand. They're like, yeah, me. Right? But then as soon as don't feel good, run to the doctor. Can I get the next script? Can you give me the next script quickly? Right? Of course, I'm going to go get my drugs. Because that's what people do. If people don't know any better, I'll go see the doctor. Because, of course, the doctor knows. Right? The doctor knows. People have more faith in doctors than they have in the Creator. But the reason why it's happening is because people don't know about the Creator. They don't know what He wrote in the book. If you know what He wrote in the book, then you have a little bit more faith, because then you understand we fear what we don't know. You first need to know that He wants you to be healthy. There's a reason why things happen. If you were to eat something bad at the restaurant, you walk out of the restaurant, you just puke all over. Are you healthy or you're sick? I know you're thinking right now, you're like, that's a trick question, because He's a little tricky with us. I'm like, well, of course, you're healthy. Puking is a good thing. And you're sitting there and you're like, who would have thought that? Puking is good. Not when you're drunk, though. I mean, that's probably not like Sharon's thinking that, but that's not what I meant. So Isaiah 7:22, it says, because of the abundance of milk that they give, here's some curds for everyone left in the land will eat some curds and honey. And then it talks about milk, and then it talks about butter. And then butter is better. Butter has always been better. Butter should be dripping all over your face. You should have lots of butter. Lots of butter. Lots of butter. Lots of butter. Back in this over 50 years ago, the Framingham Heart Study, they found out that, hey, when people have heart disease, they always have high cholesterol. And then from that moment on in life, what they've been telling everybody, they're like, hey, you don't want to eat fat because fat's going to make you fat. And you don't want to eat fat because it's going to give you heart disease. Right? So now, since this time, we've been eating less fat than ever before, but yet we've been fatter than we've ever been, and we've been having more heart disease than we've ever had, ever in time. How is that working out? How is that working out? 1984, normal cholesterol was 334. 1984, normal cholesterol was 334. That was normal. Now, I'm not telling you that if you're showing me your lab test and your cholesterol is at 334, I'm not like jumping up and down saying, oh, that's great. I did not say that. I'm just telling you that it used to be normal. What I would be thinking, as me being me, I'd be like, hey, if your cholesterol is high and you think it's high, right? The question is like, hey, what's causing that? I will tell you right now that there's a reason why cholesterol is high in the body. Cholesterol is always high when there's inflammation. So if your cholesterol is high, that means that there's inflammation. You want to get to the cause. What's causing it? Now you got to define high. Today on lab tests, if you're more than 150, they think it's high. Not in Dr. Jean-Guy's book, but in their book. Right? But again, if we can put fear into you, then we can drive you to do what we want us to do, what we want you to do, right? If we can drive you out of fear, then we can push people to do what we would like them to do. You see what I'm saying? But on the same side, on the flip side of that, it's not just about like, hey, saying, hey, I don't like drugs, I don't like doctor, I don't like, telling me all the things that you don't like, because some people do that to me. And I'm like, it's not just about that. It's about what are you going to do for you? Are you going to be taking responsibility starting today and you're going to be like, hey, I'm going to do whatever needs to be done, take care of me and take care of my family. And I'm going to have more wisdom and revelation so I can make better decisions. Do you follow me? Unfortunately, sometimes there's people that are in front of me is they're like, yeah, I don't want to go to the doctor, I don't want to take drugs, but yet they don't do what needs to be done to take responsibility for their health, to have the life that God's put on, to fulfill the calling that God's put on their life. Do you follow me? Right? Okay. In Jeremiah 29:11, we went over the scripture, but I really want you to know that, God's got a plan for you. And his plan is a good plan, and he wants you to prosper, and he wants you to have like a good life. And this life that is this desire that he's put on your heart, in order for you to fulfill that, then you need to have your health to do that. Now, nutrition and food is not the only thing, but I will tell you that, it's a pretty big chunk. And today I believe that the enemy is using that against people. And I will tell you that the enemy is winning right now. Satan is winning because there's so much people that are just been like this idea that we're just eating bad stuff, that we're feeding our kids with bad stuff. And this has been going on for decades, that we see like this chronic illnesses that is worse than it's ever been before. Ever been before. So why would we have the best, quote unquote, healthcare system, but yet we're the sickest we've ever been? If you keep doing what you're doing with yourself and with your family, then the outcome is going to be the same. Do you follow me? In Jeremiah 41, it says, here's 10 men among them who said to Ishmael, do not put us to death, for we have stored wheat, barley, oil, and honey. In the book of Ezekiel 4:9, there's if you go to the store, you can just go buy some bread. It's called Ezekiel 4:9. I mean, how many of you you've been buying some of that bread? Right? This is like sprouted grain. It's only in the freezer, because if they leave it out, it's going to turn bad. The reason why it's going to turn bad is because they sprout the grain. They don't put any preservative in it. It's really heavy. It costs more money. Usually you're going to get full faster. Right? And people say, oh, that costs too much money. I'm like, how much does it cost you to be sick? I want you to think of that. How much is that going to cost you when you're sick? I have a friend of mine that had atrial fib. He went to the Cleveland Clinic, get it fixed. It was a 10-minute procedure. Do you know how much that was? Take a guess, and if you guess right, I'm giving you $100 right now. No, I'm not giving you $100, but no, that was not. And this guy got it wrong too. It was $104,000 for a 10-minute procedure. That's a lot of money, would you say? Now, some of you are thinking, you're like, yeah, no big deal. The insurance paid for that. Actually, the insurance paid for some of it, but, it still cost him like $20-some thousand. How much does it cost for you to be sick? How many days of work a person will be missing when they're sick? How much is that going to cost? How much is that going to cost when the kids are sick and they're staying at home and then you have to stay home with them? Think about that for a minute. I will tell you right now that my kids, they had their share of sniffles, just like your kids. And what did I do? Nothing. I love the word nothing. Parents call me, they're like, what should I do with little Johnny? Nothing. Just love on him. Just tell him you love him. Drink some water. You'll be fine. Yeah, but Dr. Jean, his fever is going up. What do I do? Nothing. Right? But we fear what we don't know. Right? We fear what we don't know. I want you to know. Because you deserve to know. Because you're here. Pomegranate. You can have that. Ezekiel 47, it says, It says, and on the banks on both sides of the river, there will grow all kinds of trees for food. Trees for food. Trees for food. Their leaves will not, how do we say this word? Here we go. That's just like that. Yep. And nor their fruit fail, but they will bear fresh fruit every month because the water from them flows from the sanctuary. Right? Their fruit will be for food and their leaves for healing. So I want to give you just a few words here on this. Are you ready? It says their leaves for healing. Right? There's this things like herbal stuff that people take herbal stuff. Yes? Herbals. We don't have time for a whole supplements class, but I just want to tell you about herbals. Just like food, people are like, well, organic food, that's expensive. I'm like, yeah, how expensive is it when you're sick? Well, Dr. Jean-Guy, supplements are expensive. How expensive is it when you're sick, though? How expensive is that going to be? Herbals, right? Leaves, herbs. You pay for two reasons. I'm going to tell you the two reasons why you pay for. You pay for quality and you pay for phytoequivalency. Do you know what that means? You pay for quality and you pay for the phytoequivalency. So what that means, for instance, if you go to the store and you get some echinacea and you're like, Dr. Jean-Guy, that doesn't work. I'm like, you're right, it doesn't work for you. But it works for me. Now, you might not understand what I'm talking about right now, but you have to understand that in the world of herbs, when you got to understand the phytoequivalency, the quality of those herbs and what they do therapeutically. And if you don't have the quality and you don't have the phytoequivalency, it doesn't matter how much you take. You can just go buy it at Walmart. Of course, it's not going to work. You can go to Costco, and of course, it's not going to work. Because they have jumped into a market of like, they just want to sell stuff to people. Because the people out there, they're like, if it's natural, they're like, yeah, that's natural. I'm like, there's a lot of stuff that are natural. Doesn't mean they're good for you. But people don't know any better. Right? So there's a reason. You go buy fish oil. People pay for fish oil for two reasons. You pay for fish oil. There's fish oil at $5. There's fish oil at $60. What do you pay for? You pay for quality and concentration. Quality and concentration. So if you have fish oil from the whatever place that you buy fish oil and it's loaded with mercury and dioxin and furans and you put that into your body, guess you think it's going to do you much good? Yes or no? Right? But people don't know any better, though. They're like, oh, yeah, I just take this stuff every day. That doesn't work for me, though. I'm like, of course it doesn't for you. Because what happened is people are not smart enough. They don't understand those simple questions that we need to ask. All of you need to ask. Right? There's such thing as quality and there's such thing as concentration when you take something. Right? There's like, I'm going to give you my 5-minute spiel about supplements at the end. We're going to skip on this for right now. Let's move on because they just talk about herbs right here. Jeremiah 30:17, it says, I will restore health to you and heal you of your wound. God wants He wants to restore your health, just so you know. So you're sitting here tonight, maybe you have people you love and care about, and they're sick. How do I know that they're sick? Because I know I've done this for 26 years. There's a bunch of people that are sick around you. They're sick. They're sick. They're like flies. They're all dying. They're dying a little bit at a time. Right? It's your parents, it's your friends, it's people around you. Right? They have heart disease, they have cancer, they have this skin thing. They went to the dermatologist. They're like, oh, I have this melanoma. I'm going to die. You're right. You will. Right? And you might be sitting here tonight and be like, yeah, but Dr. Jean-Guy, we all going to die. I'm like, you're right. We will. But wouldn't you like for you? Wouldn't you like to be the best version of yourself you can until the last day, though? We don't know when this last day is going to be. This guy might live to be 130. And Dan here might live to be 99. But wouldn't you want to be at your best until that last day? In 1 Timothy 5, it says, no longer drink only water, but use a little wine. Because, of course, there's probably a few wino here. Right? And you're like, yeah, but Dr. Jean-Guy, it says, what about a little wine? I'm like, sure, have your little wine. The problem, though, with wine, it's no different than anything else. I have this guy who's got a winery that comes to the office. I'm like, hey, why do you put this sulfite in there? He's like, because they tell us to. It's for preservative. Right? Do you think that Jesus put some sulfite in his wine when he gave it to his people there at that wedding? No. He's like, I want some of that. Right? Do you see Ezekiel 4:9? People are like, well, Dr. Jean-Guy, the wheat. You mean the wheat? Can we just have the wheat? I mean, it says there's wheat in the Bible. I'm like, yeah, there is. The problem today with the wheat, do you know what the problem is? You have wheat, corn, and soy. Do you know what they do with the wheat, corn, and soy? Is like 90% of it is genetically modified. And do you know that all of it is they spray it? They spray it with glyphosate and they spray it with Agent Orange. No big deal. And then they just give it to you, right? Because you're the perfect, like we can practice on you. You're the perfect specimen that we can just practice. And then we can see what kind of disease it's going to do. And then we can see how we can treat it, and how we can have a drug for it, how we can do the next surgery for it. And then how we can just be like the champion that we just like, hey, we have like some heroic ways of helping people that have killed themselves eating wheat, corn, and soy their whole life. Just like they're doing with the cows, and just like they're doing with your family and the people that are around you every day. Think about that for a minute. That's what they do. The wheat there in the Bible, it's not the wheat that we have today. This is not you being at home with your organic wheat that is just milling the wheat at cold temperature, right? And then you're making your bread. Now, maybe there's one freak of nature right here tonight that you're like, yeah, I'm doing that. I'm like, well, good for you. But most people don't do that. I would say 99% of the people. And if you do, then just keep doing it. But the other 99%, you understand that what you're putting in your body every day is just killing you. You just need to know. So when I tell people don't eat any cake, cookies, candies, ice cream, bread, rice, pasta, they're like, really? Really? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, what do you think? Think about that for a minute. I want all of you here, you're going to have a PhD in nutrition when you leave. I just want you to have a PhD in common sense, because if you have that, we're going to be in good shape. Yes? A PhD in common sense. That's fish. How many of you like fish? Some of you here don't like fish. You're like, I don't like it. Here it says, don't tell me to improve my diet. I ate carrot once, didn't change anything. Right? People say that. Literally, they say that. They're like, yeah, I tried that for a week. That didn't work for me. I'm like, anything that you do, it's not going to work for you if you do it one time. You cannot read your Bible one time and it's just going to work. I mean, it could if God wants to. But you know what? It's like you got to do something every day for a long time. Do you understand what I'm saying? For a long time, right? Here's this next one here in Proverbs 25. It says, here's some more honey. And you just can eat more honey, and you can have more honey as long as it's raw, coming from wildflower. Here it says in Genesis 9, it says, everything that is moving, you can have it. We did a search in this Bible. How many times they say cake? You know, just so you know, the cake in the Bible, it's not the same cake as what you were eating yesterday. It's different. It's not the same cake, just so you know. Right? There's no cookies, no candies, no ice cream. The bread, this is not the same bread. 331 times in the Bible, right? But it was not the same bread than what it's in your counter now. It was not the same thing as what people are feeding their kids with every day, right? And then we send our kids to school, and then we get all excited because we think that the state should be feeding all of our kids. And I would just, I'd like the state to feed all of our kids as long as they feed them with real food, but that's not what's happening, right? I mean, those kids, they go to school in the morning, what do they have? They give them cereal, right? They give them sugar, and then they give them dairy, which they're allergic to the dairy. So then they're all snotty. Then they can't focus. They can't have attention. They cannot have concentration. They're sick all the time. They have ADD, ADHD. No, but that's okay, because if we can diagnose you with the disease, then we can get more money from the state. Well, that's a good deal, right? And then we're going to give you lunch, and we're going to have you eat what? We're going to have you eat pizza, hot dog, hamburgers, and then we're going to give you some more sugar. And then you get to after lunch, and then the teachers are supposed to be making miracles. The teachers are bad. The teachers are bad people. They don't get those kids to learn. They don't do a very good job. Because now we're blaming our teacher because the kids is jumping off the wall, and we're just blaming them for it. Because we've been feeding them crap. Think about that. And then they come home, and then guess what? Both parents work, and then what do we feed them? Well, we're going to run to the store, we're going to get some spaghetti for them. Right? Roman noodles. And then that's what we're going to give them. They have no chance. No chance. Zero. I was told before that I was kind of a pessimist realist. Maybe I am, right? But I want you to understand that that's really what's happening. But the good news is something can be done if you choose to. This can all change around if you choose to. But you have to know first. Okay, so exercising, don't do that. That's overrated. Okay. So now the question we need to be asking yourself, this is PhD level before we close this. Yeah, I'm doing really good in time this time. I'm almost done. This time I'm really good. It says, which question should we be asking? It says if it comes from the ground or the soil. So let me give you an example. Technically, if it comes from the ground, that's food. You follow me? So there's one company that we use at the office. It's called Standard Process. If you've been to our office, we use a lot of whole food supplements at our office. One of the company we use many of them, about 20 of them, but Standard Process is one that we have been using for a long time. And the reason why I like them is not because they pay me, because they don't. Unfortunately, they should. Standard Process has been around since 1929. Dr. Lee was a genius. And Dr. Lee said nutrition starts with three things: the soil, the water, and sunshine. And what happened is today in 2025, when the soil is depleted, that's a problem. So I met with the owner of Standard Process just a few weeks ago. Matter of fact, it was right here at Gilead. And here's what he said to me. He's like, the seed company, the companies that owns the seeds in the United States of America, there's 4 of them, 4 big ones. 2 of them are owned by China, and 2 of them are owned by the pharmaceutical company. And he said seeds, every company and every people in the country, they breed the seed for yield. And he says, we're the only company in the country that breed the seed for nutrition. So what that means is people breed the seed to have more production. And they're the only company that breeds the seed to have more nutrient into the crops. Do you follow me? So I was at a big conference in Boise, Idaho. This was just a few months ago. This was at the beginning of May. This doctor is right there on stage, and he's showing some statistics there that 50 years ago, right, in food science, 1 apple, and the same nutrient today in 2025, you need 5 apples to have 1 apple back then. So do you think that the nutrient in our soil, do you think it's as good as it used to be, yes or no? The answer is no. There's no doubt about it. Even if it's organic. I'm reading this book right now on immunology. It's pretty complex. I'm not going to tell you the title because I don't remember. It's not important because it's a little complex, right? But this guy there, medical doctor, he's a foreign medical doctor. He says, when I first started in medicine, parents would come in and they would ask me questions about nutrition. I would always poo-poo them out. He's like, this nutrition thing, just don't worry about that. There's nothing into it. He's like, today, now 35 years later being in practice. He's like, now my whole worldview of nutrition has completely changed. And I was kind of amazed because I'm like, hey, he's a real doctor. And here's what he realized. So food that comes from the ground technically you should have that, but you also need to understand what they've done with that food. You understand that the wheat, corn, and soy comes from the ground, but if it's been sprayed with glyphosate and Agent Orange, that might be a problem. Would you agree with that? Would you agree with that? Because that's what's happening. Unbeknown to you. You put that in your body every day. Right? People have that. This next thing here, it says if it comes from the tree, then you should be asking the question, what do they do with those trees? Do they spray them? Do you think that if you have an apple tree that people don't spray the apple tree? You see when all those bugs go in there, what do you think they do? When you go to those orchards, what do you think they do to those trees? You tell me. Of course they spray them. The heck out of them. So that's the reason why in our office we have this little card. It's 3.5 by 5. It says, hey, here's the dirty dozen, here's the clean 15. The reason why we have that is because there's a website. It's called egw.org or maybe EWG or something. I think it's egw.org. And then what they do is they study every single food and they find out the one that have the most chemicals on them, the one that have the least chemicals on them. The dirty dozen and clean 15. And then this last one here, it says if it comes from an animal, then you should be asking the question what? Yeah, what did that animal eat? Right? So at the compound, at the Dr. Jean-Guy's compound, we have some cows. And, those cows, they just eat grass. But I have this guy coming to the farm, and he's like, you know that if you were to feed those cows with corn, we can get them fat faster. You can just sell this and just make some cash. And I'm like, no, not interested. I said, those little cows, they can do whatever they want for as long as they want, as long as they eat grass. Right? Do you understand that? Yeah, it takes more time. There's no doubt about it. But at what cost, though? Do you understand? You can go to the fast food restaurant with your kids, and you can do this over and over again, rinse and repeat. You can do this for decades, but at what cost? And I'm telling you, there's a cost. We're not just talking about money here tonight. We're talking about people suffering. We're talking about, like, on a lot of different levels, like at what cost? Right? So here, what we want to avoid as much as we can is white flour, trans fat. Do you know that in the United States of America, they can say on the box 0 trans fat, but still have trans fat in it? If there's less than 500 milligram per serving that he can sell, put 0 trans fat on the box and still have it in there. So 0 don't mean 0. And then it says processed meat, white sugar, soft drink, high fructose corn syrup. Like if you go to the store today, there's 2 things that I've seen like explode in the past 10 years. Is like bars. Everybody wants to have bars. Have you ever read the label of those bars? There's like thousands of them. And then drinks. There's like thousands of drinks too. Because of course, people don't like the water. It tastes bad. Don't drink water. It tastes bad. Okay. I want to stay away from that. Supplements, I think I've already told you, but this is Dr. Jean-Guy Supplement Basic. I think that I can make a case for many things, but I would say that I like to be standing on a firm foundation. My firm foundation about supplements, and I think that every one of you here, you, all of you here, front line, everybody should be taking fish oil. No question asked, doesn't matter who you are. All of you here with no question asked, you should be taking fish oil, doesn't matter who you are. Every day, for the rest of your life until the day you croak over. There's tens of thousands of paper in the medical literature that says that, fish oil is good for your eyes, it's good for your nose, it's good for your heart, it's good for your joints, it's good for your immune system. It's just good. And you don't get it in your diet. Number 2 is everybody should be taking vitamin D3. Everybody. Did I say everybody? Doesn't matter if you live in Florida, doesn't matter if you live in Michigan, people should take vitamin D3. Why is that? Because people are inside where it's cool all day, right? This guy just fixed kitchen, so he doesn't go outside. That's what people do. And if you're in Florida, then you put all this stuff on your skin to protect yourself because you think that God made a mistake. Now, do you know that I always tell people I have this little recipe, works 100% of the time? 100%. That's pretty good, isn't it? 100%. You take flax oil plus with calcium lactate or Calma plus, and then people don't get sunburn. Because what happens, the reason why the sun causes damage to the skin is because the skin doesn't have the mineral, doesn't have the nutrient in order to turn what's coming from the sun into something that is good for you. Right? When you have the right nutrient in your skin, then the sun doesn't cause any damage to the skin. Because God did not make a mistake. But when you're nutritionally depleted, right, it's going to happen. But if you take flax oil plus, those are essential fatty acid with minerals that transfer essential fatty acid, transport the mineral into the skin, then it doesn't happen. So that's number 2, vitamin D. And then number 3 is then after that would be those first 2 things, non-negotiable. And then you could make a case to have a whole food multi-mineral vitamin, right? An organic multi-mineral vitamins. So that would be number 3. And then number 4 is you should have some strain of probiotic that can restore your microbiome. Because, for most people, they might have 1 strain left in their body that is half good. Did you know that when you take 1 antibiotic, It takes 2 years for your gastrointestinal tract to be restored. 2 years. Every antibiotic that you take will weaken your immune system, and it will take 2 years, in order to restore your microflora. So then people have kids, and then what do? They're like, yeah, little Johnny's got a ear infection. Got to go get some antibiotic now. I mean, he's going to die. Right? You just don't understand, Dr. Jean-Guy. I'm like, no, you're right. I don't understand. You're right. And the reason, there's always like a reason, right? If a person kids have ear infection, which question should you be asking? Yeah, you want to be asking why. Ooh, that's an amazing question. Why? I have this mom that came in from Kalamazoo, Michigan last week. She's got 2 kids. And you know why she brought them in? She's like, Dr. Sarah told me to come see you. You're the only one who can fix my kids. I'm like, oh, I'm sure. I'm sure I'm the only one. I'm sure there's many other people. But she's thinking, you're the only one. I'm like, oh, that's a lot of pressure. And then she started telling me, she's like, yeah. She's like, this little one here, she's got those things underneath her eyes. It's all like puffy. And she has those headaches. And the other one, she has this inner ear pressure. She had like multiple sets of tubes. She's got skin problem. And she's like, yeah, we've been to all the doctors, did all the tests. There's nothing wrong. I'm like, oh, I'm sure it looks like there's nothing wrong. Right? They're little ones. And then the next question was the most famous one. I said, what do they like? Like, what's their favorite thing to eat? Well, this one here just like to eat pizza. Pizza is her favorite thing ever. This one here just eat cheese from morning to night. If we didn't have any dairy, she'd be dead. So I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I'm a real genius. In 5 minutes from now, I'm going to be telling them that they're both allergic to dairy, and then she'll think like, he's really smart. But they had gone to the allergist, and the allergist, they do this test called an IgE test. That's for immediate reaction, and most people, when they have sensitivity, they're delayed reaction. What means that you can eat a piece of cake today, and you'll have the headache in 3 days from now. But yet most people don't know that. So anyway, I did what I did. I did my thing. By the time I'm done, I'm like, both of your kids, dairy, like badly. Travel all this Kalamazoo to here to just for me to hear that. But do you know how frequent that happens? It's like people have problems with food. The reason why they have problems with food is because when your gastrointestinal tract gets destroyed, then you don't become tolerant to the environment. Do you follow me? And I'm going to say this again, that's really important. It's like the goal in life here is not to restrict you for you to just breathe air because you're like, Dr. Jean-Guy told me I couldn't eat anything. Because that's what he's thinking. This guy right here, he's thinking that. I know him. He's like, yeah, I can't eat anything anymore. What needs to be done is we need to be like this gastrointestinal tract needs to be healthier. Your gut needs to be healthier. Because if your gut is not healthy, there's 3 tubes in your body. You have your gastrointestinal tract, you have the blood, and then you have the tissue. So if the gastrointestinal tract, the GI tract is not healthy, everything else after that, if this is leaky, there's holes in there, you're in big trouble. 90% of your immune system is in your gut, so your gut needs to be healthy. But if you don't eat food, if you eat cake, cookies, candy, ice cream, bread, rice, and pasta, then guess what's going to happen? Your gastrointestinal tract gets destroyed. It's like putting gas in the fire all day long. You've done this for 10, 20, 30 years. And you've done that to your kids. And then you have like a couple rounds of antibiotics. Some people have had 25 of them, right? I mean, there is no limit. They're just like, you know what? Antibiotic, I should be on one for the rest of my life. Because they think it's good. It's like taking a vitamin. People don't see anything wrong with it. When I have young doctors coming to the office, it's the best time because I can ask them all kinds of questions. That's usually when they're honest with me. So this young doctor comes in, he's just about done, right? And I'm taking x-rays of him and I'm like, hey, you know what you see most at the emergency right now? He's like, yeah, we see all those kids with ear infection. He's like, when the parents come in, they always ask for antibiotic and we know it doesn't work, but we just give it to them anyway because it's not a big deal. So what's the worst that can happen? And I'm like, oh, good to know. Right? Good to know. But whose fault is it? I mean, is it really their fault though? We fear the things that we don't know, right? We fear the things we don't know. Okay, I'm not supposed to be like, I'm almost done. Pat, I'm doing good. So those are real food, in case you did not know. Those are radishes. Who likes radishes? Anybody? I grew up on a farm. I grew radishes. It takes 45 days to grow those. When they're strong, do you know, like when they taste really strong, do you know what the problem is? When they taste really strong, I'm going to give you little hints because they didn't have enough water. Right? They don't have enough water, they're going to taste really strong. Doesn't mean that they're not good, just means they didn't get enough water. This is real food. Just thought I'd give you some pictures of real food. If there's no label on it, that means it's real food, yes? When you leave this place, you have a PhD in nutrition. That was my goal tonight. I wanted you to know that God wants you to be healthy. I also want you to know that, if you don't have your health, you can restore your health because God can do that anytime. I also want you to know that there's a practical part. If all of you here are believers and you believe that, the word of God is true, there's also a practical part. The practical part is in James 1:22. It says, don't just be a hearer of the word, but be a doer. Being a doer, that means you got to be taking action. There's things you got to do. God never, he's always used people to do his work. When Moses crosses, like when he parted the Red Sea, he had to do something, right? When Joshua went to the river, he had to do something. Yes? He had to do something. Yes? This guy knows. He preaches. He knows, right? God always used people to do his work, so people had to take action. They had to do something. So I believe in people doing something, right? This is chicken. You should have some of that. Looks good. You should eat like this crust stuff too. The fat on it. Fat is good. People died because they don't know what they don't know. The book of Proverbs 29, it says, people have no vision, right? If you don't have any vision, you perish. And then it says nutritional assessment and opportunity. Some of you, maybe you've had that before, maybe you haven't. That might be like something that you're thinking. Between the two of our offices, some of you here, you're already involved into this, but let's say that you're not, and you're like, what's that? Or could that be my next step? Or you might be thinking, where do I go from there? Or I have problems and I don't know where to go. And this resonates with me. At both of our offices, we have nutritionists. I'm one of them. But we have another nutritionist. Her name is Helena. Some of you might be seeing her right now, but so if you're interested into having a nutritional evaluation, what we do with people is there's a lot of different ways that people can be assessed nutritionally. And I'm a believer that there's some people that I've heard. How many of you here have heard of functional medicine? Nobody? Only this one genius right here. 2, 3 of you. Okay? Then I don't need to talk about it, but I will. So in medicine, we find symptoms. And then once we find the symptoms, then we have a diagnosis for the symptoms, and then we can give drugs to people. You follow me? So in medicine, that's how we do things. And then if we cannot give you drugs for it, then we'll do surgery. You follow? In functional medicine is we do lab testing. We do a bunch of lab testing, and based on your lab testing is we're going to look at see what your labs, what they don't look right. And then what we're going to do is we're going to be treating your lab test. And we're going to be treating them with nutraceutical. You follow me? To restore your numbers. So we're treating your numbers. And I'm not opposed to that, and I'm not saying that some people don't benefit from that, but I like to go to root cause, to get to the cause of people's problem. So it's really important to me that, in my mind, clinically, is I want to jump in the rabbit hole and say, hey, if a person, their cholesterol is high, for instance, I'll give you an example, like a real example. In functional medicine, in medicine, if you're having high cholesterol, we're going to give you statin medication. You follow me? And we'll give you the statin, and you're going to take this for the rest of your life because you have high cholesterol. In functional medicine, if you have high cholesterol, we're going to give you some red yeast. Anybody knows what that is? Some of you might be taking it, right? So when you're taking it, then you're like, your cholesterol number looks better. Then you go back to the doctor, and the doctor's like, yeah, you're doing a good job because your numbers look better. But the question was never asked, even if red yeast is working for you and it's bringing the number down, the question was never asked, what's causing that? What's causing those numbers to be high? Do you follow me? So for me as a nutritionist, doing clinical nutrition is I want to get to the root cause of the problem. What's causing the inflammation in the body? So what we do nutritionally is after we do a consultation and we do the history and we ask a bunch of questions, because remember, people will tell us the answer. In case you don't know that, right? When this mother came in with those 2 kids, she gave me the answer before I tested her. And I would say that it doesn't always happen, but if you pay attention, they'll tell you. People will tell you. That's why, how many of you here have kids? Keep your hands up. Now, I want you to know that I always tell people that the best doctor in the house, it's you. People go to their doctors and they're like, yeah, I'm going to go see my doctor. I'm like, the best doctor is you. I usually say that to the mom. I wouldn't say that to Dan. I'd say that to his wife. I say, you're the best doctor. I wouldn't say that to you either. I'd say that to your wife, right? But why do I say that? Just because the mother spends 24 hours a day with her kids, right? Does she know? She knows. So when I ask questions to the mom, I can trust her 100% because I think that she's the best doctor in the house. Do you follow me? Okay, I got on a rabbit trail here. So root cause, right? So after we do the evaluation that we get through this first part, then we do this thing called the HRV. The HRV, it's heart rate variability. And why do we do that? Is because there's 10,000s of papers in medical literature that says that a heart rate variability is giving you insight on the organ health, how the organs are functioning. You can live without your arms and leg. We can cut your arms and leg. I can cut his arm and leg, and his body's still going to be like, yeah, I'm fine. If you jump in Lake Michigan in the middle of winter, your body, God doesn't care about, he does care about your limbs, but he's like, you can survive without them. So we can cut them off. When you have hypothermia, the body's going to shut down, the blood to your extremity. You follow me? So heart rate variability tells you the health of how the organs are working. And then number 3 is we do this thing called the BCA, which is a body composition analysis. Why do we do that? We do that because it gives us insight into where you have fat, protein, where you have like muscle mass, and where you have your water. And why is that important? Is because people that have health span. Can you say health span? Health span. She said it. Can you say health span? Health span, right? Health span is every research today for people that lives a long life and a healthy life is your muscle mass needs to be up there for the rest of your life. So that's really important. And then it also gives us insight into the inflammation in the body. Inflammation is really important because you can take 100 diseases, 100, and 99 of them, they all have to do ultimately with inflammation. So that's really important. And then after that, we do the nutritional assessment. Nutritional assessment tells us what could be lacking in a person's body. There's 70 trillion cells in your body. How many? 70 trillion cells in your body. And every one of those cells, from a nutritional point of view, there's only 1 or 2 things that can happen. Either those cells can be lacking of something, or you could be toxic with something. Toxicity could be pesticides, herbicides, BPA, plastic, common, chlorine, formaldehyde, right? Those are chemicals. And then we check for heavy metals, things like mercury or aluminum or cadmium or arsenic. And then after that, we check for food sensitivity. And then after that, we check for bugs, immune challenges like parasites, bacteria, viruses. So we look for what's missing, or then if there's any kind of toxicity. And you want to know that because ultimately that's what makes people sick. So let's say that at his house there, he's been such a good steward of his soil in the backyard for his little garden, 10 by 10, it's organic. But yet I come in and I take the diesel fuel and I just pour it in his backyard, in his little organic place. Do you think it's going to be any good for his soil? Yes or no? Even if it's organic, he did all the best thing that he could for his soil in his little organic place. Yes? So your body is the same. If a person is allergic or sensitive to dairy, but you keep pounding the dairy every day and you don't take it out of your diet, that's going to be a problem long term because your body is in a constant state of inflammation. You follow me? So we want to get to the root cause of people's problems so we can get some wins that people can live the life that God has for them. Make sense? Right? So when people come off the street and they have this evaluation, we usually charge $250 to do that. When people come to our classes, this is one of our classes, Eating God's Way, right? When you sign up for that evaluation, if you've never done it, we do that for $75. And this takes you through all the way through the report of findings. At the report of findings, then we just tell you what we found, and then we give you the report. So then you have the knowledge, you have the information, and then you know. And then you have an insight into like really what's happening at the core right, of a person's body, of the root cause, and I'm a fan of root cause, right? If you don't understand root cause, then it makes no sense to you, or you're like, hey, I'd rather take a drug for it. Well, Dr. Jangi's not much into drug, right? I'm into health. I'm into like living the life that God has for you, right? And the reason why we do this is I want to circle back here. Some of you have never been here before, but the reason why I really do this is I've done this for 26 years, and I tell the story, and usually I do that at the end because this is really meaningful to me. My father, when he left on September 14, 1982, right? When he left that day, right? There's 5 kids. I've got 4 siblings, and I'm 9 years old at the time. And when he left because he wasn't doing well and the paramedic took him, right? My dad had a heart attack on his way to the hospital, and I was 9 years old. I have lived this thing my whole life. I have seen it with my own eyes. I told myself when I was a young man at 9 years old, my life changed completely. That I already had dedicated my life for the rest of my life, that I would do what I do right now in front of you. And I always tell people, I'm like, if my dad would have been sitting right here 20 years prior to him dying at the age of 20, right? At the age of 20, if he would have been sitting right here, right? He would have seen me he would have seen me getting married. Likely he would have seen me, right, graduating. Likely he would have seen his grandkids, but it never happened. This is going to be like grandkid number 8 that's going to be born in a couple of weeks from now. Likely he would have seen that one too. But you know what? That never happened because nobody's ever taken the time to really tell him really what health was all about. Because some people think that, health is when my doctor says my number looks good because I'm taking my pills. Some people think, hey, my health is fine because I'm feeling fine. And really it has nothing to do with that. And that's the reason why I'm here right here in front of you. It's because there's more in the tank for you. God has a big calling on your life, and if you don't have your health, you won't be able to do that. Do you follow me? Some of you, maybe you're sitting here tonight and you're like, I don't know what's the calling of my life. I just don't know. And I'm like, hey, that's okay, but he's got a calling in your life. Maybe that would be worth checking it out, right? What's your big why? Why are you here? Maybe you don't know yet, but I promise you he's got a calling in your life. There's a reason why you're here, right? So thank you for being here tonight. If you're ready to make that evaluation or that assessment, I think you got this little thing here. You could do that. There's 2 ways of doing this. I'm just going to tell you this quickly here. There's 2 things I'm supposed to do. Announcement, this one here, but you can scan this little QR code, and if you don't feel like, hey, I can do that, or I don't like technology, as you go through those doors, Gabrielle's going to be there, and you can just tell her when you want to come in, and we'll do that evaluation. So that's that. Everybody got this here when you came in? Yes? Yes or yes? Okay, awesome. This one here. How many of you here know you've met Dr. Nebbeling? Dr. Nebbeling Jr.? He's our new physician right here at Gilead. If you don't have a medical doctor or a family doctor, Dr. Nebbeling is an amazing man. Him and I spend a lot of time together. And he believes what I believe. So it's a good addition to this place. He's going to be teaching a class in a few days. How many of you know about regenerative medicine? Anybody? How many of you here know about like prolotherapy or PRP or stem cells or those kind of things? Anybody? Okay, so some of you here, you're just too smart for your own good. But if you don't know anything about it, that'd be a good time. Right on Thursday, he's going to be sharing with Gilead and his people, and anybody from the street that wants to hear about regenerative medicine, people that have joint problems that haven't had any success to help with those joint problems, how naturally with the new ways of doing things in regenerative medicine, how we can help people. So Dr. Nebbeling is going to do that. This is going to be on Thursday at what time? 6 p.m. What does it say here? 6 p.m. on Thursday. Anybody got this here? Yes? Dr. Nebbeling's little, it's right at I guess Gabrielle's got that on her desk as well. And it's right there on the door when you're walking out. Okay, so I have 5 minutes here. Pat says I have 5 minutes. And I have 5 minutes. I'm going to take some questions, and then I'm going to be running out the door. Sharon's got a question.
I have a question. How much fish should you eat a week?
I don't know, as much as you want.
So there's no concern with the mercury?
That's a good question. That's a good question, Sharon. Sharon's question is, she's like, Dr. Jangi, are you concerned about toxicity in fish? Well, she didn't really say that, but she's like, mercury in fish. I'm just going to be smart on you for a minute. Sharon is used to that, so she's like, go for it. One time I was at Michigan State. They had this group of very smart people. They're all PhD level ninja. And at the end of the class, this one person asked me exactly what Sharon asked me. And then I'm going to tell you what I was thinking. This is when I'm getting smart on Sharon here, just for a second. But she knows sometimes I get smart on her. Right? This is what was going to my mind. I'm like, nobody's ever worried about eating cake, cookies, candies, ice cream, bread, rice, and pasta, but they're worried about the toxicity in fish. Right? That's what I'm thinking. But I didn't say that. And I'm not going to say that to Sharon right now. I'm just saying it to you. Right? So first, I want you to know that God's already designed your body to detoxify on its own. Do you understand that? That's what your liver and kidneys do. Yes? So you don't have to be perfect. Your body was already designed to do this kind of work. That's number one. Number two is when you eat fish, it's the same thing. Like if I say to you, is it better to eat wild-caught fish or farm-raised? What do you think? Very good. You guys are just like PhD level. Okay, because when it's farm raised, they feed them with soy, corn, all this stuff that is bad for them. So if they've been living into their environment and doing their own little thing, right? Is that possible that now, do you think that the size of the fish, if you have a big fish versus a smaller fish, do you think the big fish is going to have less or more toxicity? It's going to have more because it's bigger. It's been eating more crab for longer. You follow me, right? So then when you're using your melon here, you can ask yourself those questions and say, okay, where's this fish coming from? What kind of environment was in, right? Was it wild caught? There's this website, it's called vitalchoice.com that you can have, like, there are people right there in Alaska, they can just they get this fish, they put it on dry ice, they send it to you. Okay, now you might be like, oh, I can't afford that. I'm like, hey, that's okay. There's many other choices. I mean, there's times that at Kroger during the year that they're going to have fresh fish and it's going to be right there for you. Now, it's not all year round. But there's times of the year that you're going to have some whitefish, that you're going to have some cod, that you're going to have some salmon, that you're going to have some of everything that's going to be fresh. Do you follow me? I wasn't too smart on you, was I? No, she's like, you did good. I'm in trouble. Okay, I'll take one more question. Come on now, I mean, what about the other people? I mean, you're taking all their time. Yes, go ahead there.
So you said the antibiotics are bad.
Yeah.
And I've had very few in my life and very few for my kids, but the antibiotics do work for ear infections and quickly. And when you have your child in pain, you want to help them quickly. What is the alternative that you would suggest to antibiotics?
That's a great question. Has your kids ever been checked out chiropractically? So I've been a chiropractor for 26 years. I've never seen one kid with ear infection. I've been able to help them. So statistically, it's pretty good. Would you agree? So that's that. Now, if you don't want to consider that, there's some homeopathic stuff you can put in the kids' ears. But just remember, in Dr. Jean-Guy's mind, and I just want all of you to hear me here, is we always want to get back here to the idea of like, hey, if a person is not mechanically sound, the top bone in your neck is called the atlas. If the atlas is out of alignment and it's putting pressure on the vagus nerve is in charge of innervating the inner ear, the eustachian tube. So you can give the antibiotic, you can do this stuff and that stuff and this stuff, but if this is out of alignment and it's putting pressure on the vagus nerve and it's interfering with the body's ability to heal itself, you follow me? Right? So to me, this is something that, number one, is I think every kid's on this planet should be checked out chiropractically by somebody who knows how to check kids. That's number one. Number two is I would check, sometimes kids, they might have recurrent ear infection because they have food sensitivity. So you want to check that too. That's common. Now, the food sensitivity can cause the upper cervical area to get out of alignment too. I mean, it's not the only thing, but you can have an array of things that will do that. So those are the things that I would consider. There's drops that you can put in their ears, homeopathic. and I would have them check them chiropractically if they need an adjustment. And it can work fast.
Do you think that everybody should see a chiropractor on a regular basis for their whole life? Or
Yeah.
do you like to treat certain symptoms?
No, Dr. Jangi doesn't like to treat anything. However, that's not how the world works, right? People come to see us because usually they hurt. And I don't mind. I'll take people where they're at, but then I'll walk on the journey with them. And if you want to know my heart is like, yeah, I think every kid on this planet, as soon as you're born, my kids, when they were born, they came out of the birth canal. They were, the umbilical cord was not cut yet. And they had their first chiropractic adjustment. I delivered my kids, just FYI. No, my wife did all the work. I'm sorry. I didn't say that. I mean, you weren't recording this. She did all the work. So yeah, I believe every kid should be adjusted their entire life's family. Yes, on a regular basis, even if they don't have any symptoms. Your brain and nervous system controls and coordinate everything in your body. Everything. There's not one organ, system, tissue, cells in your body that is not being fed by your brain. Right? Your brain is the master controller system in your body. So if your brain is not connecting to the rest of your body cannot heal itself the way God has designed it to. If you're not mechanically sound in a gravity environment, you're never going to be as healthy as you can be ever. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how much organic food people eat. Now, some people don't want to hear that, but that's okay. But yes, 100% I believe that with all my heart. I've been under chiropractic care since I was 4 years old. And my mom took us to the chiropractor her entire life. My sister is 58 years old now, going to be 60 soon. She had asthma when she was born. She got adjusted. The asthma went away. That's how we ended up at the chiropractor almost 58 years ago, right? So for me, it has completely changed my life and changed the life of many because I dedicated my life to teach people that. And we have 5 kids, and that's one of the reasons why we were able to keep them as healthy as they were and as they still are today, because we have invested in that, right? I'm a firm believer in being proactive, not to wait until people have problems. Any other questions? Yes, dear.
I caught part of the vitamins, you said fish oil, D3, which I take both of those.
What happened? Did you go to the bathroom? I didn't see you leave. I mean, were you transported for a minute? Okay, go ahead. I'm just teasing.
And then you said probiotic, but I missed the third one,
Yeah, an organic multivitamin,
an organic multi. Okay, thank you.
multivitamin mineral. Yeah. Now, if a person comes to your office, some of you might be sitting here and you might be like, hey, I've been nutritionally tested by you, Dr. Jean-Guy, and I'm not taking those 4 things, is because when I test people, the body's going to tell me what they need. And oftentimes people are taking their organic multi-mineral vitamins and their strain of probiotic, it's already in their program. So they don't need to take that separately. But you might not know that because there's people there. They're on a nutrition program and they don't know all the nutrients that are into their program. Does that make sense? Okay, I'll take one more. Yes, he's got one question.
You mentioned flaxseed oil, right? For skin.
I don't think I did. Probably mentioned Flax Oil Plus.
Flax oil, that's what
Yeah, Flax Oil Plus is a supplements from Standard Process. They're essential fatty acid. Yeah.
Okay, so that has nothing to do with flaxseed.
No, sir.
Okay, I was just curious.
No, that's okay. Flax Oil Plus, it's called. Yeah. Okay, you're good? Everybody got one thing? You have one on your action list to do? One to-do thing? Or maybe 2? Let's just, how many of you have like one thing that you got out of this? That's it? Okay, many. I just want you to get one thing. If you have many, but you don't do any of it, it's not going to be good. Let's just do one. Atomic habits, right? So thank you for being here. I pray that I'm going to see you again. Okay, thank you for being here tonight. Tell your friends, send them over. We do those classes every month. We love to teach people, to enlighten people that have better lives. Thank you.